son of the Empire, Fabri Blanche Elcastone. He was the greatest emperor in history due to his noble character and great talent. The empire was experiencing an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity, but this great monarch was a living hell for the heroine of the original novel, which is called The Imprisoned Empress. The title alone gives you an idea of what's going on there. But there's also the genre, a terribly dark novel, which is no less disturbing. The ill-fated heroine of this story is none other than Enya Lockhart. To avoid the same fate as in the original story, she has to constantly be on the run from the emperor. The catalyst for all these events was that the heroine of the Lockhart family, who had played an important role in the accession of the current emperor to the throne, was elevated from a marquisate to a duchy. It was the only step for the young emperor and the ducal family, who had become the leaders of the new noble faction, to enter into a political marriage to strengthen their power. From the very beginning, there was no love between the newlyweds. But after their first night together, the emperor, who had previously shown no interest in the heroine, became obsessed not only with where she went and who she dated, but also every action of hers, as well as everything else that is connected with her, starting with what she has for breakfast, ending with what exact time she goes to bed. His crazy obsession eventually led to the guy becoming jealous of his wife, even towards his own family. The culmination was that the betrayed family was accused of betrayal and destruction. Everything was done so that he could take possession of the heroine completely. He doesn't care how comfortable his wife is in this marriage. He only satisfies his own needs and keeps her in a strong cage. Just think, the girl realized she was in this terrible, crazy romance when she was only 8 years old. What could an 8-year-old child do when a predetermined catastrophe was approaching? No matter how much she thought about it, she only felt helpless. At some point, she suddenly felt a strange smell and began to look around to understand what it was. From that moment on, the solution turned out to be surprisingly closer than she could have thought, because the girl was born with the ability to recognize diseases using her sense of smell. Without thinking, she then ran up to her grandfather and said that he smelled strange, no matter how it sounded. That day, thanks to her ability, she was able to detect her grandfather's illness at an early stage. And as a reward, she received a generous allowance and saved her relatives a lot of money. At some point, an imperial decree came appointing her empress, and it also contained a request for her to come to the palace. Only for some reason, this all happens 3 years earlier than it should have, according to the original plot. That same day, she left home and took care of everything. The girl thought it would be harder, but in fact it was very easy. Only at the end it was necessary to clean up all traces of herself. The best method she could come up with was to simply burn everything to the ground. She threw in a magic bag with an endless supply of herbs and also brought her fake ID. At that moment, she decided once and for all that she would do everything possible and impossible to ensure that their meeting with the emperor never happened. Enya called a carriage. She just needed the money she got from her grandfather, and in the meantime, it looks like she's starting a new stage in her life. She starts from scratch. All she can do is hope that the plan works and the emperor doesn't find her. And in the meantime, 3 years have passed since she began to live on the run from the emperor. Every time she gets into a carriage, she remembers that day, how she left him into the unknown and did not know what would happen next. During all this time, she even had to move at least 10 times. All because of a reform called the Resident Registration Law. The current emperor, intending to keep in check the nobles who had gained too much power during the reign of the previous emperor, reformed the Resident Registration Law under the pretext of military conscription in order to survey the population of the empire. She asked herself the same question every day. Why did the emperor have to send the decree to the empress 3 years earlier than in the novel, forcing her to go through all these difficulties? At least the sparsely populated southern region will be the last to be affected by the law and registration of residents. This means that now she is going to the territory of the Earl of Grunwald. In the south, she has never had to travel so far before. Grunwald is a secluded and barren area with few young people, making it ideal for people like Enya on the run. Now this is her new home. Everything looks good from the outside. All that remains is to hope that inside there will be everything necessary for comfortable living. Since it started raining heavily outside, it became impossible to look around the area for long, so we had to go into the house right away. She expected to see something gray and boring here, But inside it was warm, cozy, and it made her happy from the first second. Everything here is very neat, clean, everything is in its place, as if someone had just cleaned it up and made it cozy. She is very pleased to look at the kitchen, where everything is neatly arranged on the shelves, at the furniture, which is in perfect condition. It was very nice to see what turned out to be much better than expected. Enya is absolutely delighted and will happily spend some time here. Suddenly, the thought flashed through her mind that everything in this house couldn't be so wonderful. There had to be some kind of flaw. Then she thought that in any case, it was better to live here than somewhere closer to the emperor. The girl was ready to put up with anything, just to live far away from him. She had just calmed down when something started bothering her again. The girl looked away sharply. At first I didn't see anyone, but then I looked at the floor and was horrified because there was a man lying on the ground right next to the house. She has no idea who he is, and she was also very surprised how she could not have noticed him before when she entered the house. She felt uneasy, although most likely this is the answer to her question. Why this house was much cheaper than the others. Apparently there are some problems with the terrain and safety here, and this is probably not the last time she will notice someone in the yard. Meanwhile, that guy began to come to his senses. Enya thought, what if he wasn't there when she was outside and appeared here when she was inside? It's possible that there was someone else here who actually did this to him. This guy started to clear his throat. He moves a little and this already calms her down, because at least he is alive. She started touching him to bring him to his senses. Although she has no idea how safe it is and whether it would be better to lock herself in the house and wait for him to leave on his own. He seemed nice to her. She was very interested to know what happened to him and if he needed any help. The girl was a little worried that he might be one of those who was looking for her. But on the other hand, she would not forgive herself if she left him alone, would hide, and then it would turn out that he was just a guy who needed help. Calling someone is also not the best idea. Now it is better not to attract unnecessary attention to yourself and not to make unnecessary noise. After that, she put herself in his place and decided to do as she would like to be done to herself. The girl started to take him by the hands. She was going to drag him into the house. You never know. Someone else might attack him. So while there is opportunity and time, she will do everything she can to live with a clear conscience later. She barely dragged him into the house. It was not as easy as she thought. Only Enya did not notice something along the way. He smiled slightly several times, as if he was pretending to be unconscious. Meanwhile, she wonders why, of all the places around, it collapsed in front of her house. And on the first day she arrived here, not earlier, not later. At that moment, she remembers that her assistant Emma, when they said goodbye to her, said something about sending someone to help. Maybe this is that person, or maybe not. Literally, it was so that you could safely escape, my lady. I will choose a strong mercenary and send him to you. Emma, in fact, is her only real friend and part-time personal maid. She is the only one who knows about her escape, and she has also been helping her with it all this time. Enya has no idea what to think now. She is still very hungry, and she has no strength or desire to deal with this. It's not clear yet. What if he's some kind of criminal and she just dragged him into the house herself, and then there will be problems because of this? The girl tried to wake him up again. He was either faking it very well or he really lost consciousness, as she thought. Then she accidentally found a special mercenary badge with a picture of a wolf, which he had in his pocket. On the backside was written the name of this person. His name is Dale. If, of course, this is his badge and it is not some kind of coincidence, he could have stolen it from someone, or maybe not. The thing is, the first emperor had a really ridiculous name, something like Paprika Pepper Tomato First, or something like that. So this guy is probably not of royal blood. In the original story, the emperor was described as an insanely handsome man, and in the cliché, any person with good looks is always an important character. She literally had a thought for a second that this person could be the one she was afraid of. So she immediately began to study his appearance. He has black eyelashes and hair roots, but golden eyes. After that, she calmed down, because this guy is completely different from the emperor, who is known for having blonde hair and blue eyes. In the meantime, in any case, her conscience will not allow her to move away from him and start doing her own thing. So she began to think about how else to help him. And when he wakes up, the first question she will ask him is who he is and how he got here. because even if it somehow turns out that the emperor sent him, he will not dare to mistreat the woman who is destined to become his empress. So Enya, as always, will look for an opportunity to escape. If fate has prepared such a test for her, then she is not going to give up, especially since, as her grandfather said, you can't turn your back on a suffering person. These aren't just words. This is the mission of the Lockhart family. This is the mindset of a true healer, and luckily for that guy, she's really good at it. Meanwhile, the whole day passed unnoticed. It was evening outside, and she hadn't really had time to herself or enjoyed the housewarming. The only thing that makes her happy is that she doesn't have to put away too many things, and that the house is so clean that she doesn't have to clean anything. She didn't even have to dust. At some point, she was already so tired that she didn't even look at that guy, and just now he started to show some signs of life. So she didn't notice how he even got to his feet, came up to her, and instead of asking who she was, didn't wake her up. He found something to cover the girl with so that she would be warmer, and he does all this very carefully so that she would not get scared. It was very sweet of him. He probably just wanted to thank her for not leaving him in the rain. The whole night passed. It was already morning outside, and as soon as the girl heard the birds singing, she began to slowly wake up. She slept so soundly that she sat on the floor all night and didn't even move to the bed. And as soon as she opened her eyes, she immediately fell asleep again. And when she realized that she had been sitting like that for a very long time, and that guy could have already run away, she finally woke up. Enya stood up, began to worry that she had missed too much. But still, she boldly went to look for him in the rooms. She also noticed on the way that the pillow on one bed looked as if someone had slept on it. It wasn't hard to guess who. For some reason, she goes to look for him with such an expression on her face, as if she knows in advance what she is about to see, as if she was robbed. But as soon as she got to the kitchen, she saw him in his apron, and there was such a pleasant smell in the room that she couldn't even yell at him. The girl greeted him, asked how he was feeling, and he was a little scared because he thought she was still sleeping. The guy smiled and generally acted as if he wasn't going to go anywhere and was planning to stay here for a while. Enya wondered how he imagined it, because it could be that she would be against him staying. At the very least, he shouldn't have behaved so boldly in her house, without even explaining who he was and how he ended up there. She started demanding that he tell her at least some information so that she would feel more comfortable being in the same house with him. After that, he remembered that he had indeed forgotten to introduce himself, so he immediately apologized and said that his name is Dale, and at the moment he is the owner of this house, and that is already very interesting. After that, she simply has no words, and the girl was also glad that she did not leave him in trouble. Otherwise, when he woke up on the street, he would immediately kick her out of here and would not give her a penny. I had to apologize for swinging a broom at him, and she also explained that he was just wearing a raincoat, and, in general, he looked like some guy who probably got lost and tired on the road. The question may arise, if the guy sold the house, then why did he return there and not leave in the morning? But the fact is that the girl bought only the second floor, which means that he can appear here at any time and live on the first floor, just like she does on the second. And also, I read the contract very poorly, and the fact that she only owns half of the house is huge news for her. For now, she is very upset that she was in such a hurry and did not read the entire contract to the end. Although maybe she will even like this life, because there will always be a person nearby whom she can turn to for help. Especially since being in an area where there are very few people and even shops, this can be a good bonus. At least it will be much more fun together. Now it's clear why the price was so low, because if she had bought the whole house, she would have paid twice as much. Even now she woke up, and there was already hot tea and freshly baked cookies on the table, and she didn't even have to strain herself and think about what to cook. Then she would have to go to some store, and that would take time and money because it's unlikely that he would ask to pay for treating her to cookies and a cup of tea. It is clear that at this moment the guy was very upset. I guess I realized that she did not expect that someone would live with her in this house, and she has not yet explained that she was not that upset. For her, it was more unexpected. He even said that if she was so uncomfortable while he was here, then he could leave her alone and find somewhere to live. The girl asked where he was going to stay, to which he replied that it didn't matter to him, anywhere as long as she was comfortable. And then she thought that no matter how much she wanted to live alone, as she had planned, it would be somehow wrong to kick out the owner of the house. Suddenly, someone knocked on their door, and no one was expecting anyone. And it was very strange that in such a place someone could visit each other. She asked who it could be, to which he replied that he wanted to know the answer to this question as much as she did. Dale decided to take matters into his own hands, asked her not to worry, to stay where she was, and he would now go and check who had come to them. He tried to open the door as confidently as possible so that whoever was there would see that no one was afraid of him here. He just opened the door, saw some stranger who smiles and says that he is looking for the most beautiful lady in the world named Eno. And after that, he asked if they knew this person by chance, because even if they had seen her somewhere, he would be glad to receive any hints. Actually, Anne is her fake name that she uses to hide, and the phrase, the most beautiful lady in the world, is a secret code that Emma came up with. The girl immediately raised her hand, making it clear that it was her, after which the guy said that he was a mercenary who had come to help her if needed. And when he said that he had been walking here for a long time and had no idea how he would get back since bad weather was predicted, the lady thought that she had to offer him to stay overnight so that he could spend the night. The guy had come to help her after all, and she should do something for him too. Then she remembered that she actually doesn't live here alone, and there isn't even an extra bed for guests in this house. And it's also advisable to take the owner's opinion into account in case he's against it. In this situation, his word will be decisive. He is the owner after all, and has the right to decide whether someone will stay with him or not. Suddenly, Enya thought that she didn't know yet whether she would need an assistant here or not, and that it would probably be easier to hire him and still use his services, as she had originally planned. Only the problem was where he would live. Then she changed her mind. After all, she doesn't have extra money to pay him, and it would be too uncomfortable for 3 of us to live here, and the owner probably isn't ready for it. So she had to refuse his services. She thanked him for coming and then apologized that it was a false call. After she closed the door behind him, the girl realized that she had made the right choice. After all, she could handle this on her own. Then, although everything was already clear, for some reason she asked if she understood correctly that for a year the 2nd floor would be at her personal disposal. He answered her that everything was right, and he also really wanted there to be mutual understanding between them, and for it to be more comfortable to live together, but certainly not worse. Although there is no point in it anymore. After that guy left, she started thinking about him, that it could be a mistake, and before it's too late, maybe she can get him back. Then she also thought that it would cost too much money to hire just one assistant, and she could live on that amount for at least 6 months. As a result, the girl decided to spend money rationally, so that later at some point she wouldn't get scared and start looking for a job. And since there are problems with this here, you will have to live frugally, but there will be a clear confidence that in this regard everything is stable and good for her, and, if necessary, she will even help the owner. Meanwhile, she only now decided to tell that when he fell, she saw his ID badge. And after that, she started telling him that she was running away from home and needed someone who could protect her, and she took some of her money and poured the coins out on the table, as if hinting that she was ready to pay him this money in exchange for safety. Dale immediately thought that someone must be threatening her, and she replied that the person she was dealing with was incredibly strong, which is why she was offering such a huge amount. And she also added that since it is a very dangerous job, she offers additional compensation. She will add 10,000 coins to each day, which in total will be almost 4 million. And this amount may be enough for him to be able to buy himself a luxurious mansion in the capital in the future. She said everything she wanted on her own behalf. Now it's up to him. The guy doesn't mind earning that kind of money, but first, before agreeing, he needs to hear more details, and he also promised that he will keep this information confidential even after the end of this case. So far, everything is going well. The main thing is that he is not scared by the information that this matter concerns the Emperor, the most powerful man in the Empire, with whom it is very risky to compete. One might think that she is interested in ordinary protection or help in case it turns out that the Emperor is somewhere in this area. But everything is much more interesting. She asks him to become her husband for a year. Words cannot describe how awkward it was for her to ask this of a man she had known for less than 2 days. Her idea is that when the Emperor finds out that she is married, he will hardly be able to even touch her or think about breaking up this marriage. To begin with, the guy said that a whole year is a very long time. So she began to explain that for him, this is a very profitable offer. Firstly, he will receive a huge amount of money simply for the fact that they will essentially live in the same house. And if he wants, he can completely forget that they are married. The main thing is that everyone knows about it. The reason their contract marriage lasts exactly 1 year is because of the law on deferred marriages. The process of marriage in the empire is simple, but divorce is extremely complicated. The divorce period alone takes on average 3 to 5 years. When this issue led to a decrease in the number of marriages, they began to provide a deferment of 1 year from the date of registration. Thanks to this, the legal recognition of the couple's marriage is postponed. During this period, either party can annul the marriage, and this is very convenient. In the meantime, she told him that this may seem like an outrageous request, but the truth is that someone proposed to her. A very dangerous and cruel man from whom she has been on the run for 3 years. If everything works out, then on paper Enya will be registered as a resident of his house, which means that she will be able to safely stay here in accordance with the law on the identification of a resident without worrying about her identity being revealed. But there is one important point: until he agrees to this marriage and she officially becomes his wife, Enya will not tell him the name of the man she is running away from. And finally, after she explained everything to him, she asked the most important question: what does he think about it, and how much time does he need to give an answer? The girl understands perfectly well that this is all very unexpected, that he needs to think it all over. So she asked him not to worry, not to rush. She is not going to pressure him. He can answer when he is ready. And she also said that if he didn't agree, she would still need to find someone. And right after these words, at that very second, he said that he accepted her request. Dale agreed to be her husband. It sounded so nice that she immediately wanted to hug him. It was an incredibly brave move on his part. You could say that she was a stranger to him, in whom he could not be sure at all. And in the meantime, they had already called a carriage. And when they started to leave somewhere, she asked him just in case if he had remembered all the necessary information. It turns out that before that, she told him a legend that they should stick to, namely that they had a long-distance relationship. Then they broke up because Enya's parents were against it. In the end, the girl couldn't forget the guy, so she traveled south to find him, and today they are going to register their marriage. The temple they go to is known for being home to couples madly in love who have eloped under the cover of night, offering extra donations to get their marriage registered quickly. And yet, in case there are still no questions, they've even rehearsed the whole thing. You can see how nervous the guy is, but the fact that he never even hinted that he wanted to change his mind is admirable. The girl now knows that at the very least she can rely on him, and he is the kind of person who will never abandon even a stranger in trouble. Now he just sits opposite her and admits that he is a little nervous because he has never done anything like this before and has not prepared for it. For her part, she tries to calm him down, asks him not to worry, because since he has gained strength, she needs to go to the end, and she will try to make sure that he does not regret it later. It was now that he decided to ask a very important question. Would she really be his partner not only on paper, but also in practice? The girl thought that if he was interested in this, it meant that he was very serious about it. Meanwhile, time flew by very quickly. They had already arrived at the temple, and now the main thing remained. Just in case, they repeated everything again so that there would be no awkward pause later, and no one would think that they were deceiving anyone. Dale has no idea how it will all go, how confident he will be, but he promises that he will try not to let her down. He also suggested that they constantly smile at each other and hold hands, so that no one would have any suspicions that they were not a couple. Without him, the girl wouldn't have even guessed this before. She already likes that he approached this responsibly and thinks about such details. The lady is so nervous that she once again wanted to check all the data that she should know about him. Firstly, that Dale comes from the territory of Pendragon in the north, and he is currently a mercenary belonging to the Black Tail, a guild of the Northern Great Union. Even though she remembers everything perfectly, she still has a feeling that something could go wrong at any moment. Dale told her that luck must be on their side because they were just trying to save her, and usually good intentions always win. At that moment, they felt that they were a team. They even became interested in checking how strong and cunning they were. Although there is a slight jitters inside, he really wants to start. This situation will brighten up the routine and bring some bright colors. Meanwhile, he says that before it's too late, they should quickly go to the temple, while they are still accepting everyone who wants to come. The girl suddenly grabbed his hand and said that they have one more thing to do. It's important for her to ask and find out if he's dating anyone by chance, because if information comes out that he has a girlfriend, it could ruin everything. He answered with a very serious face that he had never had a relationship, and in general, she is the only girl with whom he communicates so much. She said that it was very good. She had never had any experience with it either, and before a real relationship, they could practice well or at least find out what it's like to live with a person of the opposite sex. Now, nothing prevents them from becoming a couple. They have undergone full training. Now there is no turning back. Without thinking twice, they went into this temple, said that they were here to register their marriage, and the girl still didn't even let go of his hand so that everything looked as realistic as possible. They also said that they need to do it as soon as possible because they heard that there is such a service here. The priest listened to them, understood what they were interested in, and asked them to go somewhere, which meant that everything would be done now. Nothing like that happens, but you can tell from the guy's face how worried he is. She has to hold his hand, because if this were to happen to her, she would really want him to do the same. Lucky that only one of them feels awkward. Unlike her future husband, Enya is very good at controlling herself. Literally, a couple of minutes later, they were already in a special room where their marriage would actually be registered. The priest asks if they are ready to marry each other and if they understand what this obligates them to do. The girl replied that she was ready and understood everything well, and after that, it was Dale's turn to answer. He walks around embarrassed and can barely pronounce words, but he still said everything that was needed, as expected. Even though she doesn't have a fancy wedding dress, guests, or a grand ceremony, the situation demands it. Finally, that moment has come. They are officially recognized as husband and wife. All that remains is to sign, and they can safely go home. They have already thanked the priest and are now going for a walk, happy because she has no more problems. She can stand even in front of the emperor. He still won't do anything to her anymore because he won't have the right to do so. Enya is confident that she made the right choice, and overall, she is very pleased with herself. Everything turned out even better than she planned. Before leaving here, he left his wife alone for a while, returned to the priest, and for some reason began asking where their marriage certificate was. The priest asked why he is interested in this, since they have already done everything, and he does not owe them more than... And suddenly he realizes that it looks like the same groom. But his aura is very different, and he also very boldly takes this document from him and does not explain anything. This man is no longer as shy as the one he just got engaged to the girl a couple of minutes ago. Everything is somehow very strange. The priest tries to explain that this is not something that can be taken so easily. The document is the property of the temple, and now he can complain about it. And in the meantime, the guy starts to put his signature and change the name in the document, which is identical to the name of the emperor. The man doesn't understand anything. He asks, how dare Dale do this? These are original documents, and this is not a joke. He also said that he would definitely report the situation to His Majesty, the Emperor, and at that moment, the guy reached into his pocket. He took out some big ring from it, but everyone knows that this ring belongs to the Emperor, and only he can have it. The priest does not understand what is happening. He would rather believe that it was a dream than that he sees it with his own eyes. Dale said that if he wanted to live, he had to keep quiet. Otherwise, there would be one less corrupt priest in this world. And the guy also said that if anyone found out that the priest talked to the emperor, he would be in big trouble. So it would be better if this meeting remained only between them and the priest would think that he talked to Dale. Everything is so confusing that it is impossible to understand who is who and what the guy's doing now. Why he put another signature. What does the emperor have to do with it? Where did he get that ring, and why is he doing this at all? It was a very unpleasant conversation. After that, he left as if nothing had happened. Only now there is a feeling that he is not telling everything, and maybe he is not at all the ordinary guy that he pretends to be. I'm very curious to see what happens next, and most importantly, when the truth will finally come to the surface. Because sooner or later, it always happens. At that moment, these girls looked around and accidentally noticed that it seemed like Dale had just passed by them. Meanwhile, the next day came, and as soon as they entered the kitchen, they saw a huge number of gifts, which meant that someone congratulated them on their wedding. No one expected this. The girl doesn't understand who all these people are. Moreover, did the rumors really spread so quickly? After all, at the very least, to send and deliver all these gifts, some time must pass. And only after that did she think that since there were so many gifts, that her husband had a lot of acquaintances, and all of them were quite well off. The guy apologized for not telling her this beforehand. He just thought that the fact that he was popular didn't interest her that much. In any case, it doesn't matter now since he helped her with the request, especially since all those who know him live very far away and are unlikely to come to visit. Enya is calmly having breakfast and doesn't even suspect that yesterday her husband did something that would have left her with a lot of questions. Even looking at all this from the outside, it is impossible to understand what it was and why the name of the emperor was mentioned in the conversation with the priest. Now, the only thing on her mind is to get her life in order, agree on some rules, distribute responsibilities like in a real relationship, only without feelings. They have never had this experience. They will have to learn from their own mistakes, and there will probably be enough of them at first. She is lucky that he knows how to cook, and basically only he spends time in the kitchen. So at this moment, she is free to do her own thing. With all this, he also loves this business very much, and he cooks it so deliciously that she will even be ashamed to cook something next time, because it definitely won't be as tasty as he makes it. And as long as he doesn't mind taking on such a responsibility, she's only happy about it. In the morning, he didn't warn her, and very unexpectedly said that he was going to leave for some business. He didn't even explain when he would return and what he would do. Of course, she couldn't stop him. She just wished him a good day, especially since she had so many things to do today that she wouldn't even notice how time flies. Over the couple of days that they have been living here, a bit of dust, dirty clothes, and other small things have accumulated, which also take up time. Enya was just about to clear the table after breakfast when there was a knock at the door, although her husband hadn't said that anyone would come to them, and she wasn't expecting anyone either. The girl felt a slight anxiety and also the thought that maybe it would be better not to open the door and pretend that there was no one here. Then she heard women's voices. It became easier to eat, and after that, the lady finally decided to open the door to these guests. From the first second they saw each other, they looked at each other with such a look as if the girl owed them something, and yet she was seeing them for the first time in her life. Those two began to ask if she really married Dale, and they also asked about it in a very indignant voice. The girl doesn't even know how to react correctly. Firstly, she's not obligated to tell anyone anything, and secondly, they entered her territory, and after such behavior, she already had the right to kick them out. It seems like those three were fans of the guy all along, and when they found out he was already taken, they came to sort things out as if it happened in their teenage years. Enya said that firstly, none of them introduced themselves to her, and until she finds out who they are, she is not going to talk to anyone, much less talk about her personal life. Meanwhile, they began to hint to her that this marriage was a mistake, and if she did not break up with her husband, then they would help her with this. After that, a third girl came up to her, who had been on the sidelines all this time. She seemed more polite than the other two. She came up to ask if this was really the same Enya that everyone was talking about now. The girl replied that it was her, but she didn't quite understand why she had to hear these complaints, because if her husband had liked one of them, he would have married one of them now, and not her. The stranger replied that she was very glad to meet him, and only after that she gave her name. Her name is Adelina Kidlin. She is the daughter of Viscount Kidlin, the lord of the territory near Grunwald. And after that she said that she just wanted to invite her new neighbor to a small gathering. Strictly speaking, as the ruler of the Kinland, she is not a neighbor. The two territories are close, but their territory is far beyond the borderline. So the word neighbors sounds somehow strange, as if a fictitious reason, only it is not yet clear why. And she is very interested to know what business Lady Kidlin might have in Grunwald and why she's inviting her to some meeting. The girl tries to explain that she is not interested, she is not going to be friends with anyone, and hints that she actually has a lot of things to do. The more they communicate, the more it all seems suspicious. They are so persistently trying to invite her somewhere that it is already alarming. Moreover, two of these girls are clearly not in a good mood towards her because they don't even hide it and are outraged that the lady invites Enya to their meeting. It is obvious that nothing good will come from communicating with them. The best thing a girl can do now is to politely refuse or come up with an excuse. Otherwise, she will have a lot of problems. Unexpectedly for herself, she agreed to accept the invitation. Now it remains to hope that this will not play a cruel joke on her. Meanwhile, a lot of time had already passed. Evening had come. Her husband returned home, and first of all, she began to tell him what had happened to her today, or rather, who had come to see her. I don't remember. She told him that she doubted that agreeing was a good idea, but at that moment, she just couldn't do it because she thought they would attack her. Her husband says that if she feels that it is better not to communicate with these people, it is better to refuse right away than to regret it later and think why she didn't do it earlier. There are no problems with this now, but in the future, when they appear, and he is sure that this will happen, they will have to cope with it together. But now she just needs to decide and pretend that she has unplanned things to do and intersect with them as little as possible. That's all. He also said that he understands that it is always easier to judge and advise from the outside, but the girl herself should understand that he is absolutely right. No triyawi. Right after that, she decided to discuss something else with him, namely, whether he had accidentally deceived her when he said that he had never had a relationship before. Because when she was cleaning today, she opened the second-floor dressing room, and inside there were women's clothes and accessories arranged by season and purpose. Naturally, she thought that some woman used to live there, to which he replied that he had a sister and that she used to live on the second floor. And he also added that he was very upset that she could even think that he could deceive her. At the very least, a busy person like him could not have time for any kind of relationship, and especially an informal one. Mila's wife smiled and said that she would never doubt his words again and apologized for thinking such a thing about him. And in the meantime, they have already returned to their mansion. They are all in a terrible mood, and one of them is especially. She wants to break and destroy everything in her path because this day has gone terribly for her. Worse than she could have imagined. To distract herself, she started talking to her assistant about her birthday party, and she's going to make it the most grandiose one, and she needs help with that. It was not surprising to hear from her that she was also going to make sure that the presumptuous girl knew her place and regretted that she dared to encroach on what belonged to others. The next day, not far from the Lord's castle, the husband and wife went for a walk. He showed her the land that met all the conditions that she had mentioned earlier. It is very spacious here, and surprisingly, the price is not expensive at all, unlike the plots that are sold nearby in the same area. All this is very good, but according to the guy, there is a ridiculous rumor. They say that the Lord fell ill because of a curse, and the land next to the Lord's castle cannot be sold at full price. The vast lands next to the Lord's castle and the forest, from the location to the terrain, everything is like in the original story. This is definitely the land the girl was looking for. But she is very much tormented by the question of what is this strange stench that has stung her nose and has not gone away for some time. In the original story, it was described only as a fertile land where medicinal herbs were grown, but there was no mention of any strange smell. It is so beautiful here that she has already started dreaming about building her own house here, in which she will live for the rest of her life and admire these beautiful views. Suddenly, her husband said that they needed to do something here, although he hadn't warned her about anything like that before. He took off his jacket, laid it on the ground, and then suggested that she sit down because an unforgettable tea ceremony awaited her. Just recently, he was saying that they were late for work and that they had a lot of things to do, but now it doesn't seem like that at all. In fact, he just doesn't want her to do the dirty work, so he's probably going to do it for her. Meanwhile, she learned that the soil below smells completely different from the surface layer because it is fresh soil that is rich in microorganisms. And he still seems that even though the earth may smell different in the depths, this smell is somehow strange, as if it shouldn't be like that. And it is also very strange that on such land, where you can grow a lot of things and the territory is ideal for farming or any other crops, there is no one here and no one is even going to buy land, even a small plot. despite the fact that the prices are really very pleasant. My husband also said that Grunwald was recently allowed to use this land for convenience. Although he himself does not understand what the point is, he started telling something, and she was constantly distracted by the view here. The girl thought that she would quickly get used to it, but no. Everything here is so fascinating that you want to stop, move their house here, and stay to live here. It seems to her that if this unpleasant smell disappears, there will be such air here that people will pay huge amounts of money for it. There is an absolutely wonderful atmosphere here, which she feels cannot be compared to any other place in this world. And in the meantime, they have already arrived at the castle of Lord Grunwald. This place is also not impressive to me. There is so much space here that it will be difficult to go around the entire territory in one go. As expected, her husband gave her his hand so that she could comfortably get out of the carriage, and the girl did not notice how she got used to these rules. She somehow automatically extended her hand to him, and he does the same without even thinking. Although they have not been married for very long, she has a premonition that it is better to leave here before it is too late. But at the same time, the fact that her husband will be next to her calms her down. People here literally emanate unpleasant energy. If it were up to her, she wouldn't approach anyone at all, but that would be too disrespectful. The lady thanked for the invitation. She said that she was impressed by this beautiful castle, and of course, no less impressed by the beauty of this girl's appearance. Although as soon as she said it, she wanted to take her words back. She was getting too much attention and nice words. At that moment, she decided, why not just in case? Hint in advance that she was feeling unwell, so that when she felt real danger, she could say that she had gotten even worse and go home. The husband immediately understood that this was such a strategy, even played along with her and said that she probably got sick on the way because she had never traveled so far before and without stopping. Enya caught a glimpse of the girl's sinister gaze and realized that she had to be just as cunning with her. There is definitely no place for excessive politeness and sincerity in this area. At the very least, these people do not deserve it. The couple agreed that under any circumstances, they should always stick together, no matter what. When everyone had already greeted each other and introduced themselves, the girl suggested going into the house because there was nothing else to do outside. The hostess opened the door so abruptly that she hit her friend, who just happened to be nearby at that moment. It was such a strong blow, but she didn't even apologize to her, as if she did it on purpose. While the hostess was about to pass by, Enya couldn't just watch it. She went up to the girl and asked how she felt. She said that it was more or less normal, but she felt that after a while it would become much more painful, and then she thanked her for her concern and said that it was not necessary. The girl said that she couldn't pass by her and can't imagine how that lady reacted so calmly to it, and it's her own fault. Enya said very quietly that if she were in her place, she would immediately apologize, but the girl hasn't said anything like that yet. She only reminded Sophia that she had asked her too many times not to show up here, not to get in the way, that she no longer considered it necessary to apologize for such situations. Enya was finally convinced that most people have no conscience. She calmly offered her hand to Sophia and asked again how she could help her. That lady immediately tensed up so much, as if a person had appeared who everyone would now start to like, although she wanted to take that place. There is already something like rivalry between them. She even had to pretend as if she felt sorry for Sophia, but literally everyone around felt how unreal it was. From Sophia's reaction, it was also clear that she was not used to such words, and that she even became afraid that the lady would do something to her for this. The girl then went into some room. She felt too uncomfortable, and Enya understands her perfectly in this. Enya feels a very strange atmosphere. There is no single concept here. Everything is too mixed. If she did not know why she came, she would never have guessed what the occasion is today. Even a beautiful interior and weather can't save everything that happened in the last half hour, and this is only the beginning. The girl would already like to leave here somewhere, but she is still able to hold out for some time. But one thing is for sure, she is unlikely to stay here until the end. There is nothing but gossip, some crooked glances, envy, ridicule, lack of sincerity. The girl hasn't done anything yet, but she already feels that she is not welcome here. In such an environment, one really wants to drink a calming tea. It's just a pity that she can't ask for some drink with chamomile, because here the whole menu has probably already been thought out in advance. She tries to look around, but wherever she looks, everything is somehow unpleasant. Not real, one might even say disgusting. It was not for nothing that she thought it would be better if she refused, because now catching all these glances on herself was simply unbearable. And in the meantime, a conversation began about how it was time to give gifts to the birthday girl. But for some reason, everyone was divided into two camps. Some people think that gifts can be given right now, while others think that it should be done at the end of the evening, so that the girl can then come into the room herself and unpack everything in a calm environment. In the end, one of them gave the gift first. Everyone immediately started to take out their gifts because there was no point in waiting until the end. Since they had already started doing it, everyone had to do it. One of the birthday girl's best friends gave her perfume, which the girl had wanted to buy for a long time, but she felt sorry for spending that money because it was very expensive and also incredibly rare. She was very happy, but you can't tell from her emotions. The lady is very worried, so it may seem that she is not as happy as she really is. Everyone brought their gifts in turn, and then it was Enya's turn. She was silent for a while, and someone thought that she hadn't prepared anything. Some even started laughing at this. But then the girl replied that she came with a gift. She just didn't think that they would open it in front of everyone. While all this is happening, the birthday girl seems to be out of sorts. She doesn't have a single evil look. She's very kind because she loves to receive gifts, especially when there are so many of them, and she doesn't know what it will be. Enya started to get a little nervous because, with the kind of people she was surrounded by, even if the gift was good, they could make it look like she screwed up. Her hands shook slightly. The girl even got up from her seat to hand the box personally into the birthday girl's hands as expected. I wonder what she gave her. So far, it's the smallest box of all, but surprisingly, no one has said anything about it yet. At the very last moment, she decided to ask him to open her gift in the evening, when she would be alone, and promised that it would be worth it. The party went very well. She and her husband even stayed until the end, and now the next day has arrived. They discuss how everything went yesterday. Enya even forgot that they agreed to be together, but in the end, everything worked out the way it did. One thing is important to him, that no one offends her there. She replied that everything was surprisingly calm, although at the beginning, she thought that it would be completely different. He also said that he met some people. Some of them disappointed him, but a couple of people turned out to be very pleasant conversationalists. He even exchanged contacts with them. And then she starts telling him that if these people invite them to some event next time, it would be better to come up with a legend in advance and not go anywhere. If everything went well this time, it doesn't mean it will always be like that, so it's better to think about it in advance. The girl remembers how they prepared, chose the gift, how she presented it. They were very worried, but in the end, everything went more or less normally. It turns out that when she went to the ladies' room, the girl still opened her gift in front of everyone, and she really liked it. She also asked that no one be told that she had done this because it had always been difficult for her to keep a promise, especially when holding a gift in her hand that she had been asked not to open. Enya remembers very well how the girl pretended well, as if she had not seen anything, and how interested she was to see what was in the box. And she was still wondering why, as soon as she came back, everyone seemed to hate her and started looking at you in a completely different way. Meanwhile, the next day came. Although they agreed that they would never set foot in that house again, something went wrong, and here they are again. As it usually happens, any event can last at least several days, so they decided to do the same for the birthday. By this time, everyone had already found out what was in that box. Some had already looked at the necklace more closely. The birthday girl even brought this gift with her in that very box, as if she was sorry to use it. The girl even said that this was officially the best gift she had ever received, although it was not the most expensive, and at first Enya even thought that it was some kind of joke. She remembers the very perfume that some friend got hold of. Even to it, she simply reacted early on the same way as to her pendant. It's strange that her gift is getting so much attention, although it's obviously not the best. Everyone else is interested in it as much as she is. Meanwhile, a couple of days later, Enya and her husband woke up calmly, thinking that no one would disturb them that day. But they were very much mistaken. Some of that company can't leave them alone. The girl who was most offended that her expensive gift remained in the shadows came to them. But did she really come to sort this out? And she also brought some document with her. And Enya also heard that at the door, she offered her husband some money. It turns out that she wants to offer a huge amount of money to find the same jewelry, because according to her friend, she realized that it was very rare. Apparently, she wanted the same for herself. Just in case, the girl immediately explained that they bought the gift in the first store they came across, and it didn't cost too much money. And to make it even easier for her, she said that her gift was one of the cheapest that the birthday girl had received for her birthday. The girl didn't understand how this was possible. She even said that she didn't believe them. But before trying to explain everything to her, they suggested having lunch together. Naturally, the guest did not refuse. She was very hungry because she was in a hurry, wanted to do all her chores and get home as quickly as possible, so she did not have any breakfast. When she ate the first piece, Enya started to tell that they really didn't bother about the gift, and she also doesn't understand why her gift caused so much admiration. The guest thinks that there must be some explanation for this. It can't be that her friends specifically wanted to humiliate everyone. They all tried and chose very expensive gifts, so this option can't even be considered. And also, she can't get her head around the fact that the girl has so many different pieces of jewelry and of such value that any of them could be sold and a whole mansion bought. And then she suddenly became happy with an ordinary pendant. Meanwhile, Dale advised her not to worry about it at all, because it was unlikely that her other friends would even think about it. The main thing is that everything is in order in her soul. Her conscience can be a trait, because just such a gift of hers was one of the most expensive. No matter how they tried to convince her, the guest was still interested in finding out what was so special about the gift, that a friend came to brag about him even the next day, although everyone had already seen him relatively recently. Unfortunately, Enya forgot the address of the store where they bought the gift, but she promised that as soon as she remembered anything, she would definitely let me know in a letter. For this, she only asked for the girl's address and once again reminded her that this was not something she should worry about so much. And if it is so important for her to give the best of everything and surprise her friend, then next time they can agree, and Enya, unlike her, will give something ordinary, which will definitely not surprise anyone. So they talked for a long time, and after a couple of hours, the husband and wife can finally enjoy some peace and quiet. He prepared cocoa with marshmallows for her and said that it was so that she could relax and take her mind off things. Since he doesn't like such drinks, he didn't do anything for himself. He just decided to sit next to her and listen to the sound of the rain. And then suddenly he has an idea to diversify their lives. Either separately or together, they can find some hobby, because they can sit at home all the time and do nothing but sleep and eat. She tells him that she can't even imagine what could be done, especially since they have problems every day and they simply don't have enough time for anything else. She would even like to distance herself as much as possible from all people and live in her own pleasure, without worrying about the fact that someone might unexpectedly come to visit. The next day came. The girl finds out that Sophia, who was hit with a door the day before yesterday, has big problems. She was given the responsibility to help one person get well, although he has no medical education, literally nothing, so that she could do this. Since Enya knows a little about this, naturally she didn't sit at home. She took her husband to work and went to the castle to help. The butler was not warned that the lady would be visiting, but he was still glad to see her and was not even against going for a good cause, although he was usually forbidden to let anyone in without the lady's permission. She showed that she had a suitcase with everything she needed to help the person who needed her help. In fact, Sophia, when she reported this, she didn't even think that the girl would find time for this. She thought to meet her at a convenient time to ask for advice, but she definitely didn't expect that she would come like this in the morning, as soon as the opportunity arose. Of course, she is very happy to see her and doesn't even know what to say. She hasn't been helped like this for a long time, and it means a lot to her. So that no one would feel uncomfortable, the girl immediately warned that she was doing this absolutely free of charge, from the heart, and, if necessary, she would come every day. Naturally, Sophia is not against it. But first, Enya asked everyone to move away so that she could look closely at the man and understand the scope of work. He is really in a serious condition, but while it is not too late to come up with something, she will definitely do it. She has some medicine that can temporarily ease his pain. But besides that, she will also try to come up with something that will cure him completely. Sophia doesn't believe that she has found such a savior. This is exactly how she sees Enya in front of her now. She has no idea what she would do here without her. She takes out different jars from her suitcase, but no 1% has seen anything like this before. They all look like they are very expensive, although they are all homemade, and one can say that they are priceless. At first, these two were a little scared that these were some dubious drugs, and there was a chance that they would only make things worse. But then they realized that there was no other option, and they said that the girl can do whatever she wants. They trust her completely and agree to take responsibility for it, because now it is much more important to help a person by any means, because he is already getting worse every day, and if they do not use help, they may later regret it greatly, and not only them. Enya looked into the situation carefully and realized that this person had most likely been poisoned, and perhaps even attempted to do so several times. Judging by the symptoms, the concentration of the poison is so high that if you don't start treatment right now, a week at most, and something terrible could happen. Sophia ran up to her and said that if everything worked out, she would be obligated to her for the rest of her life, to which the girl replied that, as she had already said, no one owed her anything. And then, not to waste a second, she returned to the man and began pouring the medicine into him. The only problem is that it might not taste very good. Although when it comes to health, it doesn't matter whether it's tasty or not. The main thing is to survive. And for this, you can eat the most terrible, bitter, or even spicy food. At that moment, when the man started to grimace, he started to cry. No one could believe their eyes because he had been lying there unconscious for several days, and no matter what they did, there was no result. And then this. The butler doesn't understand how this is possible. It's like some kind of magic to him. Personally, he has long since come to terms with the fact that the case is serious, and they are unlikely to even be able to bring the man back to consciousness. And the girl from the first time made him show at least some signs of life. They already began to imagine what would happen tomorrow, or already this evening. Now they have no doubt that they turned to the right person, and the man is very glad that he let her in and went against the rules. They started asking how much of this medicine she had, because if they needed it, they could pay money for it. The girl replied that she could create them absolutely free of charge because it was not difficult. You just needed to know the recipe. She never ceases to amaze them. And when Sophia begins to see that the man is moving at least a little, she feels much better, and for this she is incredibly grateful. She is so happy, as if she herself is recovering. And after all, this is a completely stranger to her. She really wants to tell Enya a lot of things, but she doesn't have enough words to describe how she helps them out. It was such a touching moment that the butler almost burst into tears. But then he finally held back and did not give in to his emotions. Now, when something happens to his health, he will know who to turn to. He is very glad that he has such a friend. Although judging by the girl's appearance and age, he would never have guessed what she is capable of. The butler also said that he would be happy to thank her with money somehow. But as she herself knows, they are having great difficulties with this now. She told him that she didn't want to hear anything more about money because she believed that if it was a matter of health and someone could help, it should be absolutely free. And she also said that in the future, she plans to grow medicinal herbs for people who cannot afford treatment. And since there was an opportunity to talk about it, she asked if there was land here suitable for growing. The man replied that he was very sorry, but there was very little fertile land for growing herbs, and also none of the lands on the Lord's estate had ever been cultivated. In case the girl can do something with the land, he can provide her with a garden plot in the forest behind the castle, as well as a small vegetable plot next to it. He will be glad if these lands will be useful, because now they are idle and it is not very useful. Enya is very glad that they agreed on everything. I want everyone to think that the land is not the best. She does not think so, because from any plot you can make something that will bring good fruits. The emperor's orders are always delivered to the Lord's castle first. So if a girl creates a grass field near the Lord's castle and stays close to it thanks to her work as a doctor, she can learn news about the emperor here faster than anyone else. In her case, it is very profitable. Since the rules require it, she will have to officially get a job as a doctor. In the near future, the butler promised to bring documents for signature. It is something like an employment contract. As a result, she only managed to return home in the evening. As soon as she walked in the door, she called her husband and asked him to look at something. The girl smiles. She is very happy and confident. He will be happy for her too. She said that she was hired and now she will have something to do. When he asked what the job entailed, she replied that her job would be to look after the Lord's health for a while until he got better, but she didn't specify that she also planned to personally take care of his recovery and that everything depended on her. The husband didn't understand why she decided to get a job because it didn't seem like she needed money, which meant it was something else. To this, she said that she simply had another goal, and it was not really about treatment. In short, it was all part of her plan to make the land he found for her her own. And also, she has a suspicion that someone deliberately poisoned the Lord, and as a doctor, the girl cannot simply ignore a patient who is in danger. And there is one advantage to this job. The two of them will be able to receive imperial news much faster than they could. Dale is very interested in the fact that over time, the Emperor may become interested in her. And the more often she appears there, the more likely it is that they will start having problems. Enya is very pleased that he is fully involved in this matter and is trying to help, but for now, the girl is sure that he is doing everything right and everything is not as risky as it seems to him. So she told him that she was very touched that he was so serious about her, but after that she asked him not to worry because she had her own ways and backup plans in case something happened. I don't invite them to talk, as if they were arguing, but overall it seems as if he tells her one thing and she tells him another. The girl understands that he is worried, but when she explains something to him, she does not see that he is inclined to agree. And in the meantime, the next day came. The Lord woke up and Sophia immediately ran to ask how he was feeling. She really wanted to hear that he was feeling better, to which he said that it was very strange, but he really felt very good. And when he woke up, it seemed as if everything had already passed. As soon as the girl found out about this, she immediately came to visit, and it is very nice to hear that he is getting better, especially considering the fact that she didn't even try hard. During the time she was at home, she found out that the poison that infected the Lord was rare and had a unique property. It spreads very slowly, so constant exposure is required, and until it reaches the desired concentration in the body, early symptoms are generally absent. Moreover, it is impossible for someone to be poisoned in such a natural way. The person who poisoned the Lord was a spy from the Hexagon, the head of the old nobility faction. They did this to try to bring down their family, the leaders of the new nobility, and if this time was also their doing, then a spy from the Hexagon must have gotten into Grunwald. Obviously, someone had been around the Lord for a long time and won his trust. At some point, the girl wanted to leave the room, to think about something, but only opened the door slightly. As she saw Adelina, who was clearly eavesdropping and was now trying to run away, not realizing that she had already been seen. Enya thought that there could only be two options here. Either she really was eavesdropping, or she was running somewhere at exactly the same time as the girl left the room, and it was just a coincidence. Meanwhile, Sophia came out to her. She thanked her again for everything she does for them. Have a nice day. The girl also said that they would all be glad to see her every day, even after the Lord finally gets better. And she still can't get over the fact that if it weren't for such an amazing coincidence and Enya's help, they would never have guessed that the cause of all the symptoms was poison. She really wants to, but the thought that if it weren't for Enya, the Lord would be in a very bad way now, and it's unknown how much longer he could have held out, and maybe he wouldn't even live to see this day. Just in case, Sophia decided to find out what the plant for the medicine was called, so that they could also try to create something in case the girl couldn't come. The girl replied that firstly, even if she told her this information, it would not help in any way, because in addition to this, a lot of other knowledge and experience is needed. And secondly, now it is better for them not to try to recreate the medicine, but to find someone who can again try to harm the Lord. Enya will be able to move for a very long time, but in any case, the problem needs to be solved at the root. The sooner they find the spies, the sooner everything will be resolved, and she won't have to come help anymore. At the end, she only hinted that it could be a person of their age, whom they would never have thought could be him. Sophia has no idea who she should think of now. It sounded like some kind of hint, as if Enya knows the name of this person, but does not want to say it out loud for her own safety. The assistant is such a soft person that it is difficult for her to start blaming someone, even to think that someone in this house could do something like that, although it is a fact and she herself understands it. At that moment, the girl decided to give another hint that points to Adeline, and she did it in such a way that Sophia would definitely understand everything. She didn't expect to hear this. She understands perfectly well who it is about, but she has no idea how she should act. Firstly, to ensure safety, and secondly, to avenge all her atrocities. They talked for a long time, and eventually agreed to make everyone think that they had become friends, so that later no one would have any questions about why Enya began to appear here more and more often. Even though it is only for business, the girls think that their friendship will flourish and is unlikely to ever end. Enya is very happy that there will be someone in this castle that she will be close to. It is incredibly convenient for both of them. At some point, she was passing by and accidentally heard some sounds that she couldn't ignore. It wasn't just a conversation. Those words were like some kind of spell, so the girl just couldn't help but look at what was going on there. She went down to the floor below, very carefully and quietly approached the place from where the conversation was coming. And here is Adelina. She is screaming very loudly and is indignant that Dad told her to come here, but there is some kind of mess here. And she also started to tell that some girl had cured the Count and now she doesn't know what to do. It all looks very strange. Down below, the girl saw only Adeline and no one else, so she wondered who she was talking to. She is holding some small red ball in her hands, which looks like some kind of communication tool. Suddenly, a voice came from there, which asked Adelina not to be nervous and calmly explain how it happened that the Count was cured of the poison. From the conversation, Enya found out that the girl was talking to her father, and she also told him that she had a new enemy, Enya, who not only healed the Count, but also took Dell from her and humiliates her. Then they started talking about some documents. She told him that if their plan failed, it would be the end, and if the Duke found out everything, then everyone could even die. Enya still didn't understand what documents they were talking about, but now she at least has some kind of clue, and she is also convinced that all the troubles are because of Adelina. Meanwhile, the girl asked her father how she can find the documents, which have already been hidden by someone, and probably very securely. To which he replied that if she needed these documents, then she should deal with it herself. Immediately after these words, Adelina became so angry that she smashed this red ball against the wall. She thought that her father would somehow help her, but in the end, he blamed everything on her. In fact, you can understand her too. She hopes for some support, but in the end, she remains alone, especially since she doesn't even have any accomplices. Enya realized that she wouldn't hear anything interesting anymore. So before it was too late and she was noticed, she left. While the girl was no longer here, Adeline said that ever since Enya started appearing here, it has been nothing but trouble. Even though the girl didn't hear this, she already knows how Adelina feels about her. And now she shouldn't waste time. It's better to quickly figure out how to deal with her. It is obvious that those people are not going to stop. They intend to go to the end, just like Enya. Along the way, the girl realized that if they were speaking for the Duke, then it was definitely Duke Hexagon. In the Empire, at the moment, there are only their duchies, Mohart and Hexagon. As expected, the mastermind behind all of this is Duke Hexagon, the head of the old noble faction and the villain of the original story. Like their family, the Hexagon family also specializes in medicinal herbs. There was a time when the hexagonal principality was called the Angel of the People. The main reason was because they provided the inhabitants of the empire with the so-called panacea, a medicine that cured all diseases and got rid of unpleasant symptoms. Despite its monstrous effects, it was incredibly cheap. For people who did not have access to doctors, it was considered a kind of salvation. But in fact, it was a terrible poison, and no one guessed about it. Despite the serious side effects such as paralysis and addiction, even with the support of the Hexagon, the previous emperor turned a blind eye and innocently, and the citizens were exposed to this poison for decades, and as a result became seriously ill. But the current emperor would not tolerate this for a single day. Despite the fierce resistance from the old nobility, he acted decisively to overthrow the Duke of Hexagon. As a result, the Duke was sentenced to house arrest. Only people were a little disappointed that it was something more serious, but given the lack of evidence, it was the best possible outcome. He's always been the type to manipulate others from behind the scenes instead of taking action himself. And now that his sentence is almost up, he's probably trying to regain his former power. It's not a coincidence that her grandfather and master were poisoned in the same way. It's good that the girl knows it now. Now, her immediate goal is to find out more information about those very documents, and of course, to find them before Adelina can do it. If everything works out, she will have all the evidence. And in the meantime, after Adeline had already left that basement, Enya returned there, and a couple of minutes later, Sophia unexpectedly came up. She heard some sounds there, decided to check, and when Enya heard her voice, she got very scared because she thought that it could be Adeline. The girl saw that it was Sophia and immediately relaxed, and then asked what happened and how she could help. It so happened that Sophia is free now. Only the girl does not yet understand whether this is good or bad. She just started to sort out these documents. She wanted to be alone, but apparently it will not work out. If she doesn't plan to tell her anything, it means that she will only be able to come up with a plan in the evening, because Sophia will be around all day. Suddenly, her friend grabs her hand and says that she has something she wants to show, and promises that she will like this place. She brought her to the library. It's a huge room where you can find anything you want, and no one even knows approximately how many books there are. Sophia said that there used to be even more books here, but unfortunately, over time, they began to disappear somewhere, and no one knows where to look for them now. Now, this place is something like an abandoned storage room. Almost no one comes here, so if suddenly Enya wants to be in silence, she can safely go into this room, because silence will be ensured here. The girl decided to ask if Adeline had ever been invited to this library, or maybe she sometimes comes here herself. Sophia replied that there were such cases, but the lady always said that she was not comfortable here and had not returned here for a long time. And then she had a brilliant idea. Since Adelina still can't find the documents, and if we also take into account the fact that she almost never goes to the library and has hardly been here lately, then they might just be here. And while it's not too late, it's probably best to spend as much time here as possible and look through every shelf. You never know. What she needs is right here. Most likely the documents could be hidden in a special place so that they would not be thrown away as soon as a person entered this room. And in the meantime, Enya noticed something and asked what it was and why it was covered with some kind of fabric. She almost thought that they were not alone here. It turns out that this is a family portrait of the head of the family, which he did not have time to finish due to some circumstances. Naturally, she immediately wanted to check what was drawn there, because any information can still be useful. In fact, it turned out to be a very ordinary family portrait, as Sophia said, although the girl thought that it would have something special because it was painted by the former head of the house. She was already thinking about covering it back, but then she noticed an unusual texture that immediately caught her attention. When suddenly, looking closely, she realized that between the canvases, she saw something square, very similar to the format of documents. It seems that this is exactly what she was looking for. Although initially she just wanted to look at the portrait and did not think that everything would turn out like this. And in the meantime, it was already dark outside. It was time for her to go home. Enya was very tired, but she still had to make this journey. After all, her husband was waiting for her at home. It is still unclear what she decided to do with the documents and where they are now. And in the meantime, the girl thought about the fact that last time her husband gave birth all the way down the hill to wait for her. She was not happy to disturb him, but she would not mind if it happened again today. She was already thinking about walking calmly, when suddenly she felt a familiar energy and some strange noise that shouldn't be there. It was very calm outside, there was no wind, when suddenly something appeared and in another place leaves started to swirl. The girl couldn't help but notice it. She felt a little creepy because this usually didn't happen. She even thought that maybe it happened because the house was isolated from the village. After sunset, it really felt uneasy here. In order not to linger on the street, she decided not to turn around and just walk in the right direction, as if nothing was happening. At that moment, she feels that something is happening near her. Right behind her, she slowly turns in that direction. I saw that there was some white ball on the ground that was glowing and something was happening to it. And then instead of this ball, her husband appeared. It just so happened that just when she thought that it would be nice for them to walk home together, that's what happened. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. She thought about going to hug him, but he suddenly falls to the floor as if he was losing consciousness, just like on the day they met. Enya had no idea how to understand this and what just happened. Naturally, she immediately ran up to him and started checking whether he hurt her or not. The girl touched him and felt that his body was so hot that it was hard for her to even touch him, let alone drag him home. She has a lot of questions right now that she would like to hear the answer to. It all looks like he used some kind of teleportation, and also, although she will never believe it, there is a possibility that he heard her thoughts, which is why he appeared almost immediately as soon as she thought about it. Meanwhile, she somehow miraculously managed to drag him home, and even to bed, and all this time he was unconscious. She has a feeling that her back will hurt terribly in the morning, but right now she is more interested in what is happening to him. Finally, Dale woke up. She was very happy about it, and she also noticed it right away because she was next to him the whole time. And she only left to wet a rag and put it on his head. The guy just came to his senses. For some reason, he immediately got scared, as if he saw next to him not his wife, but some stranger, and in the meantime, he asked what is happening and why she is in his room. The girl again doesn't need that. In fact, she dragged him here with her own hands and was also with him all this time to monitor his condition. To begin with, she asked him if he remembered how it all happened. He replied that he didn't remember anything, and she asked him to work less next time because it apparently had a bad effect on his well-being and endurance, especially towards the end of the day. He was very embarrassed that she had to carry him in her arms once again. Dale apologized, but in fact, it was all nonsense. She was more interested in why this was happening, and if necessary, she would try to come up with something. Enya told him that she was very worried about him, and she didn't want her to be there the next time something like this happened. If suddenly she will be waiting for him at home in the evening and will think that he could have lost consciousness somewhere, she will simply go crazy. The guy said that he himself doesn't know what can affect him so much because he doesn't do anything that would leave him with no energy at the end of the day. The wife thought maybe it was teleportation, but he smiled and said it couldn't be related. Enya, unlike him, thinks that this is not a joke. She asked him to use teleportation less, let him fall or come later, but the main thing is that everything will be fine with him and she will not worry. He promised that he would try to listen to her, and in the meantime, they remembered that it was already very late and time to rest, so they wished each other good night and went to their rooms. After his wife left his room, he felt very ashamed that she had seen him at such distances that he would not have wanted her to see him. And it also seems to him that all this must be caused by the accumulated fatigue from overwork, and also aggravated by the frequent use of scrolls. The guy is already so used to using them that he can no longer imagine his life without them. He needs them in order to secretly appear in the imperial palace, and so that it is as unnoticeable as possible. He is very sorry that his wife will worry about this, and it seems that it is time to look for some other way. After they talked, Enya didn't feel any better. She felt strange, as if she felt that someone wasn't telling her something. She tried to feel if he had some kind of illness, but she didn't find anything like that, so the girl concluded that it was definitely a side effect of the scrolls. However, the side effects rarely occur from just one use. There is a high probability that he uses them much more often than he says. Dale is a mercenary who uses expensive scrolls. If you think about it, the master craftsman necklace he supposedly received as payment for the request was too valuable an item for a normal person. Dale specifically said that since moving south, he has only taken on minor tasks in the area and that he no longer accepts dangerous requests. Suddenly, she also had the thought that she couldn't know this man well enough to be sure that he wasn't hiding anything from her. That night, she decided to get some proper rest because she felt that if she didn't sleep again this time, she would spend the whole day like a vegetable. And in the meantime, she got up early in the morning, feels great, even decided to cook breakfast for two, so to speak, to surprise her husband, because he usually does this. She woke up much earlier than him on purpose. And the girl also remembers that he had wanted to cook one dish for a long time, but he never had time for it. So today she cooked exactly this. Enya tried very hard. She tasted the dish many times when she cooked it to be sure that it was at least edible. Only now the guy realized that he had never really eaten anything she cooked, and today was the first time. When she said that she couldn't cook at all, he thought that he would hardly finish even a small piece. But in the end, he really liked everything. Now he won't be afraid to ask her to cook something when he doesn't have time for it. At some point, when she asked him what his plans were for today, for some reason he became agitated, as if he didn't want to tell her something. Instead, he asked her what she was going to do today, and the lady immediately realized that he was not telling her everything and decided to figure it out right then and there. She said that as a wife, she has every right to know where he will be today, with whom, and until what time. Then she thought that if she put pressure on him, nothing good would come of it, and decided to tell him something, namely that she had a contract and a map proving the guilt of the Khaled, which she had been looking for so long. She began to tell that she devotes all her time to this and wants to achieve justice, namely to punish those who are involved in the Lord's illness. Only she didn't take into account one fact. Everything she is telling him now are completely different phrases, which are absolutely unintelligible to him. He hasn't looked into this matter and has no idea what's what. And since her husband pretended to listen to her very attentively, she continued that if they reported this to the imperial palace, the situation in Grunwald would improve, and the inhabitants of the territory would also become happier. To begin with, she plans to show all this to the gentleman and Sophia before these documents pass through any other hands. It remains to be hoped that the emperor will resolve this issue fairly, and in the end, everyone will be happy, except, of course, those who are on the side of evil. And the girl also said that if you put aside this whole story with marriage, it seems to her that they could be good colleagues. She now sincerely believes that everything will be fine, and all these efforts were not in vain. Enya tries not to rejoice ahead of time, but it turns out with difficulty. Then they talked a little more, even planned what they would do on the weekend. Although Dale doubts that he will have a free minute this week, let alone a full weekend. In any case, he promised that if he was free, they would definitely have a good time and have a good rest. As Dale said, everything went very quickly, easily and smoothly. The girl for some time could not even believe that it was enough, and there was nothing more to do. The imperial family conducted a strict and thorough investigation into the incident, although they thought they would still need some persuasion. As she thought, the Lord's illness was caused by a powerful poison. Along with all this, another mountain of evidence surfaced, and the Caedlin had no choice but to confess and tell the whole truth down to the smallest detail. As they had expected, the lands handed over by Grunwald to Caedlin were slowly becoming polluted under the guise of geological surveys. Outwardly, they maintained the appearance of close family ties. This made it difficult for Grunwald to freely develop the land. If the rented land turned out to be fertile, this would benefit Grunwald, so Caedlin most likely acted to prevent such an outcome. If the Lord died from poisoning, they intended to seize the territory of Grunwald, and eventually Adelina would be forced to flee from Grunwald. The return of land and compensation for damages followed quickly, as it was the only and logical course of action. And as a result, Grunwald was surprisingly able to recover faster than expected, which everyone is very happy about. On this beautiful day, Enya decided to come to the castle to share the good news with everyone, especially since she hadn't seen Sophia for a long time. Her friend ran up to her as if they hadn't seen each other for a year, although it had only been a couple of weeks. The butler is as usual surprised that the lady has come all this way to greet them, and of course they are always glad to see her. Sophia didn't think that this day would come so quickly. She of course believed in success, but not so much. Then she suggested going into the room, because Grandpa would probably be glad to see everyone. He is just sitting in his office looking at some documents and has no idea that they have guests. As soon as he noticed that someone was entering his office, he immediately felt pleased, and when he saw who it was, he even burst into tears. He was just about to open some letter, but it will have to wait now. After all, it is much more important to communicate with those thanks to whom he is now alive and well. Then he told me that it was a letter that his great-grandfather left for his father a long time ago. But if anyone was interested, they could open it and read it together. Sophia asked how close the Lord was to his grandfather, because now is a great opportunity to discuss such topics. The man began to tell that for him it was a very touching topic. He always got along with his grandfather. He taught him a lot when he was young, and it was the happiest period in his life. And he also remembers how his father missed his father, just like he is now, only now he misses both of them. His grandfather once told him that when he was in the South, the empire often suffered disaster during heavy rains. Recently, it was discovered that his great-grandfather died during a landslide caused by one of these storms. After that, he also said that, in fact, he also knew that Kidland wanted more than just family communication. The man had long felt something suspicious, but all this time pretended that he did not understand anything. Because they were useless relatives and there was no hard evidence, the man kept making excuses and ended up almost leaving the child alone. Just thinking about the horrible things they could have done to his granddaughter makes his heart ache, so he's grateful to everyone who helped him get back on his feet. He also said that he would be obliged to her because she had uncovered this conspiracy before he left this life, to which she replied that she was happy to help, and if he ever had any unpleasant symptoms, he could always contact her. And Enya also said that the imperial family also did a lot of things, so they should also be thanked, at least for the fact that the most decisive evidence was found by imperial investigators. The dark hand uncovered during the imperial investigation turned out to be a central noble from the old noble faction, a subordinate of the Duke of Hexagon. In the past, he came to the Lord's estate with an offer to buy the lands of Grunwald. But the Lord had no intention of selling them to outsiders. So the next method they came up with was, this is precisely the use of Viscount Kydland, who was a relative of Grunwald and was very useful to them. The nobleman helped Kydland capture Grunwald, receiving in return part of Grunwald's lands, and in the end, everyone was happy. This is how their deal was made. Since the Hexagon was involved, the imperial family had to act quickly and carefully. Sophia says that all this became possible thanks to the evidence found by Enya, and in her opinion, the girl deserves words of gratitude more than anyone else, because if it weren't for her, the imperial family would not have done anything. There is another very important point. If it becomes known that the girl has solved such a big case, it will only lead to trouble, as her husband said. Now it is really better to stay away from the spotlight. It is enough that a few people know the truth, and it will be good if no one else finds out about it, except for those who sit in this office and, of course, the emperor's family. The Lord asked to be allowed to at least express a sign of their gratitude, because the lady did not just heal them. She saved the entire Grunwald, and they will not be able to calm down until they thank her in some way. He really wants to say something about the forest and the garden. He knows how important the territory is to her, so most likely he will want to give her something. Suddenly, Dale unexpectedly joined the conversation. He said that he heard that Grunwald got back quite a lot of land from Kydland this time, and the wide wasteland in front of the Lord's castle. In his opinion, this place should be a sign that they should not give up their land so easily, and now it is better to worry about this than about some rewards, because if this is not done, then there will simply be nothing to thank them with. Then he apologized if suddenly it sounded too rude, and added that if they handed over the restoration of the forest and wasteland to Lady Enya, then this could be considered a worthy compensation, and she would be happy, doing a useful thing, and it would be beneficial for everyone else. The girl didn't even think that he was thinking about it like that. She fully supports this idea, but now everything depends on what he decides. At that moment, she thought that they originally really wanted to get this land. But after they all heard the story of Grunwald, now it's somehow embarrassing to even think about it. Suddenly, the man says that this is a great idea, and he is surprised that he did not think of it before, and it was all so simple. Meanwhile, the guy turned to the girl and said, "Why not accept this offer to allow them to properly express their gratitude?" The girl replied that it was all very awkward for her, since she had initially said that she would not accept anything in return and that she had done everything only with a clear conscience. She explains that she needs time to understand what is the right thing to do in this situation, because if she accepts these lands so easily, she might regret it later and won't be able to persuade them to return them. In all the time that a man has lived in this world, he has never met such honest people as her. He couldn't even say anything about it. Sir, since the girl has already tested the soil in the forest and in the garden, she knows that there is no need to stick to the original plot. Besides, she does not want to accept the wasteland and attract unwanted attention from the Duke. Instead of all this, she suggests doing this, to announce to the whole world that Grunwald has risen again, and if they will be calmer this way, then they can agree that this is her wish. And she also said that she had previously studied methods to cleanse the land devastated by toxins. And if they get help from the temple, the problem will be solved quickly. Enya has grown too fond of the people here, so she wants to rightfully return the assets that originally belonged to Grunwald. At first, everyone thought that she just wanted to seem too polite, but now everyone is convinced that she really is like that. The Lord began to say that these were very good words, but he was not sure that the busy priest would travel all the way to this remote place, to which the lady asked if they did not have enough donations to call a priest, especially since she knew one of them. It was a very long conversation. It is impossible to believe that they have already said goodbye. The girl and the guy have already gone outside, and in the meantime, the man is looking at them through the window and is worried that he might have said something wrong. He asked his assistant if he had noticed that he had said something wrong, to which the butler replied that he had not noticed anything like that, and that it seemed to him that everything had gone well. The main thing was that everyone was happy. As the girl thought, they have some unforeseen things to do every day. Now she understands her husband, who constantly says that he can't plan anything. Meanwhile, they have already returned home. She is happily relaxing in silence, while her husband is outside doing some household chores. Then she got bored. She went out to check what he was doing there, and she still can't believe that this day has finally come to an end. It seemed to her that it was going very slowly, slower than all the previous ones. Enya didn't want her husband to see right away that she was looking after him. She wanted to admire how he worked. She doesn't understand where he gets so much strength from, because as soon as they got home, she couldn't even take food from the refrigerator normally. She was so lazy to do everything. And not only did he not sit down once during the entire time, but he also wanted to go outside and do something useful. She had already decided to call him. She probably got too bored. And this is not surprising because after a hard day, when someone was constantly near her and talking, being in silence is too unusual. She asked him how he was feeling, to which he replied that everything was fine. Although she very much doubted it, because it was impossible, it seemed as if he was used to working until his arms or legs gave out, or until he lost consciousness. And Enya, is it true that the husband's complexion has improved significantly lately? This means that he really kept his promise and stopped using the scrolls, at least as often as he did before. When she comes here, she feels like she got a lot from Dale. He always listens to her and helps her as if she was his real wife. They hadn't planned anything for tomorrow when suddenly she wanted to fix it. Enya suggested that he go to the city in the morning, and he reacted as if he wanted to sleep longer tomorrow, but now it wouldn't work out. In the end, naturally, for her sake, he had to agree. The next day came. They were already in the southern city not far from Grunwald, as she had wanted since yesterday evening. They were walking calmly, looking at the quiet street, when suddenly children came running and started making noise. And at some point, the guy noticed that one girl might stumble and caught her in time. Enya didn't even have time to notice how it happened. Personally, she didn't look at other people at all and was only in her thoughts. When the children thanked him, they went on to walk further but left behind some strange energy, as if everything that had just happened had been arranged on purpose. Maybe they wanted to get to know them or take a closer look at the guy because he is quite popular. The girl felt pleased that he was so attentive and kind to other people's children, and then she thought that she shouldn't be interested in this at all. After all, they don't even plan to be together, and this marriage is not real. They've already walked half the street. Enya doesn't want to leave here. She likes the atmosphere here. Here she wants to do something, not sit still, but at home, everything is the opposite. If she didn't have any business there, she would sit in one place and do nothing, and that's very bad. The girl has already started to think about living in a big city in the future, but these are just thoughts. It is possible that in a month she will change her mind. Out of the blue, Enya starts acting towards him as if they were truly in love. But what worries him most is the fact that she starts hinting that they spend too little time together, although they never agreed on this. He himself doesn't know yet what he thinks about it. Maybe he just misunderstood her, or the girl said it in the wrong words, and this misunderstanding happened. Meanwhile, they went into some big clothing store. The girl wanted to pick out a couple of looks for him, because lately he has been wearing the same thing. First, he tried on the first outfit, then another, a couple more. And he was so tired of changing clothes that he already started asking to decide quickly. Otherwise, he simply wouldn't be able to stand it and would leave here in a bad mood. He more or less liked everything he tried on, so he doesn't mind buying all these looks and leaving as soon as possible. And the girl does not understand how he can be so frivolous about his wardrobe, because it seems to her that you need to take a lot into account: type, color type, and more. Otherwise, all the clothes will look ridiculous, even if they are expensive and of good quality. She realized that he didn't care why he went, so she took matters into her own hands and started choosing everything for him. At a very opportune moment, an assistant approached her who could help with the choice of clothes. She offered her help, and of course, the girl did not refuse it. She thinks that she should be the best at understanding what suits whom. After all, she's been working in this store for many years, and everything should be much easier and faster with her, just as her husband wanted. They didn't stay there for long. That woman really helped. She sent all the clothes by mail. They specifically chose this option so as not to carry bags all over the city. Enya notes that he might be bored with her, that he would like to be at home now, but for her sake he tries and agrees to all her whims, and all just so that she is happy. When she asked him if he wanted to go home, the guy smiled slightly, probably wanting to say that it would be nice, but remained silent. Then he said that he wanted to devote this day to her, so he was ready to follow any orders and go wherever she wanted. In the morning, they were in such a hurry that they didn't have time to have a proper breakfast, so they had to stop at a cafe. Enya was very happy about this. She ordered dessert and 2 teas, when suddenly even her husband admitted that he was already starting to like this kind of walk. It turns out that all he needed to be happy was to just sit down somewhere and have a bite to eat. They were very lucky. The food here is incredibly delicious, so much so that they will definitely come again next time if they are somewhere in this area. Having had some food, they went on a walk, but now the girl doesn't know where else she wants to go. And also today, she had a feeling as if she had known this person for an eternity. She felt so comfortable with him, as if they had always been friends and now they met after many years. She even thought that to this day she has not found a single flaw in him. He completely suits her in all respects. Dale is a very kind person, sympathetic, honest, knows how to cook, always does hard work for her, gives her advice, worries about her. What is worth only the fact that he agreed to save her life by taking her as his wife. Even now, when she didn't expect it, he quickly stepped aside, bought a whole basket of flowers just to make her smile and remember this day as something good. He is pleased to see how surprised, happy she is, hugging him and saying that she is delighted with this date. With each passing minute, they became so comfortable with each other that he even suggested going for a boat ride. It was sunset outside and they were in no hurry. Enya said that she really wanted to have a nice day, and he guessed so easily what she was missing. She herself would hardly have guessed to go on a boat, although she had dreamed about it all her life. Her cheeks are constantly red. The girl is embarrassed, and the thought that something could happen, that she will fall in love with him and not notice how it happened, won't leave her head. But if she had feelings for this man from the start, he would have been the best husband, having lived with him for some time. Now she understands why he has so many fans and those who dream of marrying him. He really is a wonderful person, and meanwhile, being in these thoughts, she didn't even notice how he took something out of his pocket. She just looked in his direction when she saw a ring in his hands. And after that, he said that he wanted to marry her for real. Even though they are already married, this ring, if she agrees, will become a symbol of their love. The guy admitted that he had been thinking about it for a long time. Lately, he feels that he can no longer live without her, even for one day, and can't explain the feeling that is growing more and more inside him. It so happened that the girl didn't even notice how she agreed. Her heart told her, and she listened to it. After she put the ring on her finger, the two of them felt a little awkward and agreed not to talk for a while to calm down. The guy understands that she has too many thoughts and emotions now, although he himself is feeling exactly the same. At some point, they pass by a tent with an announcement that you can use the services of a fortune teller for a low price. He didn't really want to go there, but the girl persuaded him, although she herself didn't notice how she had such a desire. She greeted her clients, called them a nice couple, and asked how she could help such wonderful people. At first, he didn't know what to answer, but then he thought, why not take advantage of the opportunity and ask if they could live happily ever after? He never believed that such people could see the truth or the future, but so that Enya would not doubt that she had made the right choice, he still asked about it. When the woman started saying that it was a very difficult question, the lady thought that they had come here in vain and suddenly began to be afraid that she would hear something unpleasant now. After a couple of minutes, she started saying things that only the two of them knew, and no one else could even guess about it. The fortune teller said that although they were married, all this was not real. The girl does not understand how this is possible. She did not tell anyone that this was a fictitious marriage, and at that moment, she really believed this woman. She began to inspire complete trust. And in the meantime, the woman begins to see some kind of curse, says that if nothing is done about it, big problems await them in the future. For some inexplicable reason, the guy started getting nervous and ordered her to stop. And when she said that they themselves asked to tell the truth, he became kind of crazy, as if he understands what she is talking about and does not want his wife to know anything about it. At least that's how it looks from the outside. He literally pounced on this fortune teller, ordered her to stop, otherwise he himself would make it so that she would no longer be able to say anything. The girl at this moment looks at them from the side and does not understand what is happening. She has never seen Dale in such a state. And after that, he began to be indignant at how a woman dares to say such terrible things without providing any evidence. He also called her a liar and told his wife that these are such schemes to tell people that everything is bad for them and demand money for help that they don't really need. Dale has heard more than once that at first such fortune tellers say that everything is very bad, and then they supposedly cast a spell that cleanses people of all troubles. A couple of minutes passed. He realized that he had not shown himself in the best light, and after that he tried to explain that it had not worked out any other way. He just doesn't like being so brazenly deceived, and surprisingly, instead of being offended or scared, she went over to his side and also began to advise this woman not to engage in deception. Dale thought he had just ruined his day, but it turned out that his wife supported him for the first time, and it was very nice for him. After they calmed down a bit, the guy explained that he acted without thinking, as he usually does when he feels like he's being deceived. She told him that he didn't have to make excuses because if it weren't for him, she would have given the money to the swindler right now. After that, they went home and decided that they had enough adventures for today. The next day came. The girl wanted to come to the castle because she was not bored here, but she did not even have time to go inside as she saw some strange trace. This trail is near plants that no one should collect. And since it is here, it means that someone did not keep their promise. After some time, the girl collected information, and it turned out that for the last few weeks, someone had been eating or collecting all the harvest in the garden. Everyone thought that these were some wild animals. They put up a fence, but it didn't help. Instead of stopping taking the harvest, this someone becomes bolder and bolder. At first, he took only the leaves, but this time he stole them completely, roots and all. And this footprint that she saw on the floor, it is almost twice as big as her foot or the foot of another average person. Taking into account all these factors, she has an idea that there might be a thief in the field, or maybe even several. Meanwhile, Sophia came to her. She runs to the girl with a smile, actually, as it usually happens. She said that she came to help, especially since she had already done all her chores and was not used to sitting idle in one place. She has a few tools with her that might be useful, and she also has some things she plans to tell you today. Only it seems to her that this is not the right place to talk about it. She hinted that it would be better to go into the house and discuss everything there so that no one could overhear them. Naturally, the girl is not against it. She is only happy to chat, especially if it is something unusual and interesting. One can only hope that it is something good and that they suddenly do not have any problems. Sophia immediately said that it was very important that the girl did not interrupt her and listen to the end. First, she learned the true identity of a certain person. The girl was very scared that Sophia could find out her identity. If so, then she has big problems. But for now, it is better not to show that she is scared of something, because suddenly she misunderstood her. Enya asked her what kind of person this was, because until she knew this, it would not give her and she simply would not be able to listen to anything else. And then Sophia admits that she means her, and once again said that in fact, from the very beginning, she felt that Enya is not what she seems at first glance. She remembers very well how her friend from the very beginning, despite her usual status, never felt fear in front of Adelina. Enya still doesn't understand what Sophia means. So far, she compliments her and doesn't look like she's disappointed. After these words, the friend began to tell how she always admired Enya's manners, which always manifested themselves. Even when she drank tea or just talked, she wanted to look at it as something beautiful. Some people even said that if the book of etiquette were a person, it would definitely be in the form of this girl. At this moment, Sophia is ready to say what truth she knows about her, and then she says that Enya is the same noble lady who ran away with her husband because of love. She recently read a romance novel where the plot is very similar to the life of Enya and Dale, so she is sure that Enya is a complete personification of the main character. Finally, the girl was able to relax. She was so worried that Sophia found out the truth that she blushed deeply and was already thinking what to do next. If Sophia somehow found out who she feared the most and that her marriage with her husband was not real from the start, it could be considered that her happy life could end there. They talked so much that Sophia got tired and asked to rest for at least a couple of hours on some bed. The girl smiled and said that she could lie there as long as she wanted. The main thing was that she wasn't late for work and that no one looked for her. Enya has a few things to do. She is already tired of talking and doesn't mind if her friend rests a little. In the end, she decided to go for a short walk to get some fresh air and realize what had just happened. It would have been better if the friend hadn't said anything at all, because that would have only made the girl nervous and, as it turned out, in vain. As soon as she went outside, she saw a suspicious man who was in her garden and eating the harvest. She began to think how dangerous he was. What was better, to go to him or call someone for help, because she had no idea who was hiding under the cloak. Surely this man foresaw that he could be caught and that he might have something sharp and dangerous in his pockets with which he could attack her. She had already gone through all the possible options in her head, but still hadn't decided what to do with him. In the end, her husband came to her just in time. He helped to catch this uninvited guest, and he also told him on a chair so that he would definitely not run away anywhere until they figured out who he was. He started to get indignant. What right do they have to detain him here? And he also says that they will regret it. It sounds so necessary that the girl immediately told him that, firstly, he would regret that. At the very least, he had entered someone else's territory, harvested crops, and was also threatening with something incomprehensible, although he was the only one to blame for the situation. Dale warned him that if he heard him threaten anyone again, he would make sure that he would never be able to talk again. The two of them started looking at him very angrily, but the villain still wouldn't admit who he was and what he was doing here. He started to say something very quietly and in a coppery voice, when suddenly he heard a very appetizing smell coming from the kitchen. He could not resist and stopped talking. Enya thought, why not offer him this food in exchange for the information that he is trying so hard to hide from them? In his place, she wouldn't have been able to resist this either. Fried chicken looks like some kind of picture or not real food. This time the dinner turned out even more appetizing than last time. It is clear that the guy can barely restrain himself and really wants to take at least a bite. In the end, he didn't agree so easily. He suggested that they agree that he would tell them something only after they had all had dinner and that no other options would suit him. He noticeably warmed up, began to smile, already talking to them, as if he had not entered someone else's house, as if it were his friends around. Enya, that he has few reasons to sneak into someone else's territory and collect their plants, but still, she wants to listen to what he has to tell her. The girl is sure that as soon as he starts telling lies, she will immediately figure it out and he will immediately regret it. Meanwhile, he gave in and started telling how everything was fine with them before. But then times began, when everything they had began to gradually disappear, and by this he means food and everything necessary for life. They started having unemployment. Many people lost their jobs because many companies are not able to pay salaries. So from those times when he didn't need anything, nothing was left. He had to walk the streets looking for food, like hundreds, if not thousands of other people. At first, the girl hated him, But now she understands what made him become the way he is now. He even apologized for daring to waste their time, nerves, and also promised that if they let him go, he would never come back here again. My husband started saying that it doesn't work like that. If everyone first does something bad and then apologizes and explains why they did it, there won't be fewer villains. He thinks that they should make him not want to steal anything anymore and make him think about how he can earn money for food in other ways. After that, he said again that they really don't have the slightest opportunity. Even those who have the makings of a business or something similar are just the same, left on the street and can't earn a penny. Enya is inclined to believe him. It seems to her that the more good people there are in this world, the better it will be. If she were in his place, she would really like to meet a kind person like her. At some point, he began to run out of words. He simply began to wait for their decision, especially since he had already said everything he wanted. The girl thought that since nothing serious had happened, he deserved mercy, especially since she had never seen scammers as honest as he was. She believes that once he has the opportunity to earn money, he will not lead this lifestyle. He just heard these words, immediately became happy, and sincerely promised that when he at least partially returned to normal life, he would definitely come to visit them and thank them for their kindness. Despite how it all started and how angry she was at him at the very beginning, the conversation went very pleasantly. No one even thought that it would end like this. Meanwhile, she became the next day. Sophia came to her again from the very morning with a request that she do her hair. Lately, she really wanted to be like her friend, even though they have different lives. Even being an assistant, Sophia wants to like herself in the mirror and start changing her life. Enya helped her with pleasure. She even gave her her dress, which suits her very well, and also did a light makeup which will be almost invisible, but perfectly emphasizes her cute facial features. Sophia doesn't even know what to say now. She's very grateful to her friend who constantly makes her life better. If she had the opportunity to do something for her too, she would gladly do the same. Sophia has a lot of things to do today. Her friend knows about it, so she wished her a good day and said that if needed, she could do her makeup tomorrow too. If of course she manages to visit her before work, and if one of their plans doesn't change and anything can happen, it turns out that today is a special day. A long-awaited event is taking place in the castle. Now it is clear why Sophia wanted to look good. She will have to talk to the guests, ask how they like the atmosphere, what they are missing, and bring drinks if the waiters don't have time. There are a lot of aristocrats in the area today, but surprisingly, she feels very comfortable among them. And perhaps it's because she looks good and has a new dress. She usually takes her job very seriously, so she makes sure everyone is smiling and that no conflicts occur. She even sometimes has to eavesdrop on the conversations of aristocrats in order to better understand what interests them and what she can talk about with them after a while. At some point, she thought, why not approach someone personally? This time, she chose a very elegant lady who was standing alone and almost started to get bored. The girl asked how she was feeling, if she could help with anything, to which the woman replied that everything was fine, and if she had known that there was such an atmosphere here, she would never have been late. Sophia was very happy to hear this. She wished her a good day and said that if she needed anything, she could contact her at any time. Then she thought, in order not to be too persistent, she needed to go somewhere, because suddenly the woman did not want to stand with her and communicated only out of politeness. No matter how it sounds, in a secular society, this is absolutely normal and there is nothing wrong with it. Suddenly, the guest asked her to stay and also admitted that she rarely attends such events, so she is uncomfortable meeting someone and communicating in large groups. But she is so comfortable with Sophia that if the lady does not mind, she would really like her to keep her company. Of course, she couldn't refuse her. This was the first time she had received such a request. The only problem was that if some problem happened, she would have to leave, and this would be very inconvenient. In any case, she received a request to please the guests, and that is exactly what she is doing now, especially since she is not alone here, and there are other assistants everywhere on whom all hope is. At first, they started talking about neutral topics, and then suddenly they started talking about something that concerns Enya. It just so happened that the woman had heard something about this girl and would like to meet her. As soon as Sophia heard this name, she felt awkward and also thought that Perhaps before saying that she knows this person, she needs to ask Enya what she thinks about this and whether she would like this meeting. This is some kind of amazing acquaintance. The woman felt it, turned to the assistant who theoretically could help her, but for the safety of her friend. For now, she is in no hurry to help a stranger. You never know how it will turn out, and she does not want to be guilty later.